Hi everyone, this is Braden here from Voiceflow and welcome back to another video tutorial. Now today we're going to be going over one of the tougher concepts in Voiceflow, and that is flows. Now what flows allow you to do is to essentially create layering for your Alexa skill, meaning that rather than have one really big project with thousands of blocks all on one canvas like this, you can break it up into manageable sections, almost like a file system. So for example, let's say you're building an interactive story skill and you had multiple chapters. Rather than having chapter 1 and 2 all on the same canvas, which would be a really big skill, you can break it up into having the menu system ask which chapter do you want, chapter 1 or chapter 2. And depending on what the user says, it would go into a flow, which then holds that chapter. And so everything is kept separate. And it's super modular. And now another benefit of flows is it allows you to copy flows and be able to paste them elsewhere, which allows you to reuse blocks that you've already made. But enough talking about all this stuff, let's actually hop right in. So for the skill we're going to be making, we want to ask the user which chapter they want, chapter 1 or chapter 2. We are then going to lead them into different flows depending on what the user says. So let's ask them, what chapter do you want? Chapter 1 or chapter 2? I'm going to connect these together. Now I'm going to pull up my choice block as we have in previous episodes. I'm going to add two choices, one for chapter 1 and I add a couple synonyms there, and one for chapter 2. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to move my camera over, and we're going to drag out the two flow blocks, which are going to make the two new chapters. So I'm going to drag out one flow block here and one flow block here. Now, one thing to know about flow blocks is simply by dragging them out does not actually create the flow. The block is not the flow. The block is like a container for the flow. Now this may be a lot to handle, but don't worry, we're going to go through it very, very slowly. So the first thing I want to show you guys is on the far left, we can go into our project menu denoted by the little folder icon, and we can click on that. And you'll see here it shows our project structure. Now you'll see right now we only have one little icon here for the root. Now you might be wondering, well, what is the root? The root flow is the main flow for your Alexa skill. So if you could think of it like, let's say like a house. The root flow would be like your walkway in. It would be the very first thing that comes in contact, and then from there you can choose which branches to go off through the house. Do you go through the hallway? Do you go upstairs? Do you go downstairs? Everything starts with that opening hallway or the opening door. And so that's kind of like your root. It's the base for your entire Alexa skill. Now, there's only the root right now because we have not created any flows, and flows inside of other flows, in this case, flows inside of the root flow, I said flow a lot there, would be called a subflow. Okay, so if the user says chapter 1, we want to bring them to this flow block, and if the user says chapter 2, we want to bring them to this flow block. Now to actually create a flow, we are going to click on the flow block here, and we have two options for each flow block. This flow can either take the form of an existing flow, but we don't have any, we only have the root, or we can create a new flow. So let's actually create a new flow. So I can click on this, and you'll see we are brought into an entirely new skill, or sorry, an entirely new canvas that is all within the same skill. Now on the left here, you can actually see that our root has now led to a subflow, so a flow within the root. And so we're going to click on the little gear icon and relabel this as chapter 1. Okay, click on the arrow, and inside chapter 1, we're going to have it say, hi, you are in chapter 1. Okay, we're going to connect these up. And we're going to save. And now what we can actually do is we can go back up to the root flow. So you can see you can actually click and move between the flows by clicking on the different little buttons on the side. And what you'll see here is in the root flow, you have structure and flows. Now, if you were to click on flows, all it's going to do is show you the full list of flows. So let's say you have a skill with 100 different flows. You could search for them, so you can see there. And you'll basically have a total list, whereas the structure is going to show you how they actually are interconnected with these little arrows. So we have our chapter 1 flow right now. If we go up to our root, you'll see this has now been relabeled as chapter 1 because it's holding that flow. And now we want to create our chapter 2 flow. Now, how we can actually do this is, let's say chapter 1 was really big and we wanted to have a very similar copy. We want to copy the chapter 1 flow and only make a couple small changes. What we can actually do is we can copy the chapter 1 flow. So I'm going to hit copy. And you'll see on the left here now, we now have a chapter 1 copy in this section down here called other flows. Now, other flows are flows that have not been assigned. They are not held within any flow block, but they do exist within your Alexa skill, but they are not accessible to the user. And so that's where your copies will go. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, hi, you're in chapter 1. I'm going to change this to hi, you're in chapter 2. I'm going to rename this flow to chapter 2. And there you go. So now we have a flow for chapter 2. Now we just have to assign it with a flow block. So I'm going to go back into my root where I have the flow blocks. I'm going to go to this flow block, which, as you can see, either says create new flow or select existing flow because it does not have any assigned flow for it. So rather than create a new flow like we did with chapter 1, we are actually going to hit select existing flow, and I can hit chapter 2 because it's sitting over here in other flows. So I'm going to hit that. And you'll see now chapter 2 has been moved out of other flows because it is now in use in our project and it is within root. Okay, so now we have our basic skill. What you'll actually see is you can build entire projects inside of these flows, and you can have flows inside of flows inside of flows and create very large projects that are actually very manageable because you've broken them into smaller chunks. And these chunks also allow you to reuse other parts of your project. So if you make something within a flow block, you can copy it and use it over and over and over again, which makes it really easy. Okay, so now I'm going to hit upload to Alexa. There we go. Alexa, open test skill.
What chapter do you want? Chapter 1 or chapter 2?
2.
Hi, you are in chapter 2.
There you go. So as you can see, it actually went within that flow and it allowed us to build a complex Alexa skill that doesn't look that complex, and it's much easier for us to visualize. So that is flows. That's the most advanced concept in Voiceflow. If you still have questions about this feature and you're sort of scratching your head, go into the bottom right of your Voiceflow, and you can actually have live support with our staff, and we'll be able to help you 24/7 with any issues you have with Voiceflow and flows in particular. And yeah, so with that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video where we'll be going over even more advanced features in Voiceflow. Thanks so much. We'll see you then.